Perfect.
Let's go, everybody. It's a new season. Can't wait. Can't wait to be back. Very excited. Also, last year I was doing like 4 different leagues. This year I didn't want to do any outside of at least this one because it was just overwhelming last year. I also have a little bit harder of a job, but this is now officially going to be my very welcome break I believe it's normally a Tuesday, so I'm going to be very, very enthusiastic. If you thought I was into it last year, you have no idea what's coming this year. So we're going to be talking about my favorite fantasy league in the land. We're going to do the draft recap right now. We'll be doing the weekly recaps. During the draft recap, what we typically do is we go from 10 to 1, ranking your team and talking about your draft. Last season, I think I did pretty decent with the recap, but this season I'm really going to keep track throughout the season to see if I nailed it at all or if I was completely wrong about this order of who has the strongest teams, at least to start off. We also do best pick, worst pick, and I'm actually going to start off with that. So let's just get it kicked off with the best pick, I believe, of the entire draft. Drum roll, please. The best pick was Eli Mitchell. Eli Mitchell went in the 8th round, 7th pick. An absolutely fantastic pick to team glory hole. I am shocked he fell so long. There's a lot of picks before Eli Mitchell that I don't fully understand why they would go first. I'm going to talk about them later, so I won't touch upon that right now. But when you get Eli Mitchell, you get an offense that has lately definitely been run heavy. Eli Mitchell is an incredibly talented running back. There's really no injury concern going into the season. There's no threat to his starting role. No one thinks that Jeff Wilson's going to pop in and get even close to half of the carries. Eli Mitchell is the guy. I guess the only thing I could think of is the fact that Debo gets in sometimes, but I don't think people realize how low of a volume still relative to like what normally you'd see in a backup running back or in a maybe mini committee might look like. And Trey Lance as a starting quarterback is a new look for that offense, but honestly, when I see a mobile quarterback enter an offense, I see a lot of opportunity for running backs because the defense has to account for the quarterback actually running as well. So I really like Eli Mitchell here. I think it was a fantastic pick. Again, very surprised he lasted this long. I'll talk about Team Glory Hole later, but I also think it was a really great and necessary addition for that team at the time. So that was my favorite pick of the draft. As far as my least favorite, there were a couple. I don't think this was such a crazy draft. There wasn't so many. Again, I was shocked Eli fell that long, but there wasn't so many insane reaches. I do think so. I didn't go with anyone that's really a bad pick. But a pick that I probably would have avoided is Nick Chubb at 11 overall. That went to Caesar Trons. So Caesar had to wait a long time for his next pick. So I do understand a little bit. If you love Chubb, you got to go with him. The reason I don't love Chubb so much is his lack of involvement in the passing game. The question marks at running back, there's no reason to believe Kareem Hunt at this point won't be on the team. When Kareem Hunt's on that team, you have maybe a 60-40 situation, including D'Ernest Johnson and anyone else that might be involved. So when you get a running back in the top 11, which is my league's 12 teams, that's a first-round pick for me. So if I think about a first-round pick or late first-round pick, you got to go with the workhorses, in my opinion. I'd rather Saquon over Chubb for sure at this point. I'd rather Aaron Jones over Chubb because even though they're in a similar snap count and snap percentage rate, I don't know what the exact term is, Aaron Jones is much more involved in the passing game, so his ceiling, I believe, is a lot higher. I also think this Browns offense, as compared to Aaron Jones, who I think is the most similar guy ADP-wise that I could think of, I believe that Aaron Jones is in a very powerful offense. Nick Chubb, Cleveland might have one of the worst offenses in the league with Jacoby Brissett being that quarterback right now and not many tools on that team, not many things opening the passing game. Maybe Amari Cooper changes things, and I actually drafted him in my league, but not enough for me to justify Nick Chubb in the top 11. He more in my ranking is like more 17, 18. Again, that Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, I'd probably go Diggs before him. I think I'd go DeAndre Swift before him. I'd definitely go Jamar Chase before him. Surprised Jamar fell that long. Kamara, if no suspension, much more effective than Nick Chubb, but with the suspension, I'll give it to you. So that's where I land right now with worst pick. But again, I mean, when I say worst pick, normally it's someone who I'm like, this guy's not going to help you. Chubb's still going to be a fantastic running back. I mean, for an RB2, you're in a pretty good situation. When I talk about your team, I'll repeat that again. So I don't have a gigantic issue with it, but it was the reach of the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. So that's where we landed there. So with that being said, pretty long intro there. But with that being said, we have 10 teams that we're going to be ranking 10 to 1. And coming in at 10th, the team that I believe had the weakest draft, Livin La Vida Yoda. So with Livin La Vida Yoda, again, this is a 10-team league. I've talked about this last year, but it's really hard to have a bad team in a 10-team league. So even when I see this team, it's definitely not a bad team. There's also there's less variance. It's more likely that a team that I rank on the bottom in a 10-team league could actually be incredibly well versus like the 12, 14 team leagues. If you miss, you just miss. Here, these are guys that could still perform, but it's pretty obvious looking at this team that they went the most unconventional, and I think it was unnecessary. They went 2 tight ends and a quarterback all within the first 5 rounds. In a 10-team league, I actually am very big on the RB wide receiver early strategy. I'm always supportive of that, of course. It's fantasy football, but in other leagues, in 12-team, 14-team leagues, RB wide receiver gets thin really, really quickly. In a 10-team league, you have a little bit more time. So to go Kyle Pitts, Josh Allen, George Kittle back to back to back, you didn't need to go 3 tight ends, and that actually wastes those rounds 3 to 5 where you're still getting slightly premium running back wide receiver. When you enter round 6, the best you can do is who you went with, Brandon Cooks, which, listen, he's a solid option, sure, but as your wide receiver 2 without even having your second running back yet, when other guys have RB2s such as, I mean everyone has Aaron Jones and is someone's RB2, Kamara is someone's RB2. Wide receiver 2s are going to, like, even DJ Moore, a fantastic wide receiver 2. I'd rather most wide receiver 2s over your wide receiver 1, so that's where my issue currently lies with Livin La Vida Yoda's team. And then when you go to depth a little bit later on also, this is why I felt like it was also on the bottom. I don't feel like the depth picks were so fantastic. I mean, I kind of actually do like Damian Harris. Once you go past that, Cordarrelle Patterson, I don't see being a guy whose ceiling is too high this season. Because he's not really a classic running back, I see a limitation on that, and I think they're going to involve that rookie running back a little bit more. But I'm still fine with that. After that, the depth picks, it's just not there for me. Eli Moore, I mean, I'm a Jets fan, but we're not going to have productive wide receivers this season. I apologize. We have 4 solid wide receivers on the team, all very similar caliber. Moore's very slightly above them, but without consistent quarterback play, it's hard to imagine consistently starting Moore. Lockett, also really troubled offense. Wide receiver 2, don't like it. Boyd, the third option on that offense, really don't like that. If you're counting running backs, also probably 4th. And then there's really not much else to speak of. So I like that. Listen, you have 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. In a bigger league, I would like that because they're premium options. You could trade them. But in this league, you don't really need 2 quarterbacks. There's always going to be a solid quarterback on the free agent market, and I don't think you need 2 tight ends as well. And that's why you rank at a C+. We got a few B minuses, so there's kind of a tie here. But let's kind of separate them by saying number 9 is El Granas. I don't know what that means. I should have Googled that beforehand. For El Granas, I'm going to just keep butchering that. The first couple rounds went really well. But another unconventional strategy going wide receiver really heavy. 1 running back, then 4 straight wide receivers. I don't personally understand waiting so much on running back. Again, those first 5 rounds are premium options. To go so wide receiver heavy, to me, doesn't make the most sense. I actually like Allen Robinson, but the fact that you went with Allen Robinson where you could have gotten yourself a premium tight end in George Kittle, the fact that you went Mike Williams, who I also kind of like, when you could have gotten more running back help with maybe a Dave Montgomery or Cam Akers with a really high ceiling, when you already had 2 really good running backs, that's where the disconnect for me exists. This is a solid team still. DeAndre Hopkins was a good late pick. If you could stay afloat for a bit, having DeAndre Hopkins come in will be really helpful. But again, you have so many wide receivers. Who are you even going to start him over? I would have rather see you go 1 more running back rounds 2 to 5. For that reason, I'm giving you a B-. Although I do really like your situation with depth at wide receiver. I think running back, you needed to get a little bit stronger. I do like Najee a lot, but I just do not like A.J. Dillon enough as an RB2. It's really as simple as him not being a starting running back. I mean, he's going to have good weeks, and his floor isn't to the floor. Like, he has a decent floor, but RB2, I can't see it. And I'm not as much on the Dameon Pierce bandwagon. He's not even really listed as a starter right now, so I can't get too heavy into that. Coming in at number 8 is the chairman. All right, for the chairman, I think the first 2 rounds went really solid. You covered yourself at 3 important positions: Eckler, CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews. I mean, I can't really complain about any of that. Mark Andrews, I probably would have went a different direction. I like Pitts just as much as Andrews this year, maybe even a little bit more. But I do like Mark Andrews still a good amount. With the chairman, though, I think the interesting thing here, I'm not even going to put it in a negative tone, is this team couldn't have more question marks. After round 3, it's all question marks, basically every single pick. Let's go really quickly. Deontay Johnson, first of all, just got injured, but more so the fact that he's in an offense that's totally unpredictable with the quarterback change. We don't even know who their starting quarterback's going to be. We don't know where that's going to land. Travis Etienne in a backfield with the most question marks probably out of any backfield as far as what's James Robinson's involvement going to be, how will Etienne look, is he going to look healthy, or is he even going to have the same explosiveness we're expecting? Then you go Godwin, another guy who is banged up, another guy entering a questionable situation with Julio Jones not in that offense. How does that change the dynamics of that offense as well? Then you got Darnell Mooney, another gigantic question mark in that offense. So you keep getting top options in very questionable offenses. Top options in questionable offenses. Kareem Hunt, what team is he even going to be on? Devontae Smith with A.J. Brown in there. A lot is different. Is Devontae Smith still going to be a target machine? Probably not. Pickens, a rookie, no clue what his role is going to be like on that offense. So Valdez-Scantling, no idea what that role is going to be. Dobbs, I think is how you pronounce it, the Green Bay rookie. What's that going to look like? All across the board, all question marks. Is that a bad thing? I can't say it's a bad thing. I can't give you a good ranking because it's not like these guys are incredibly high ceilings. Like the highest ceiling from this whole group is probably Godwin, if he goes back to what he had been, maybe Etienne, but just so many question marks that I don't think you filled in enough steady options. I would have liked to see you go with an Elijah Mitchell to have a more reliable offense option, or Juju Smith-Schuster, like balance it out a little bit, but all that to say, I do think that you have the potential to be good, so I'm not going to rank you near the bottom, but I'm still going to give you a B- because I think there was a little bit too much risk in your draft strategy. The final B- that we have goes to Caesar Trons. We talked a bit about the picks we didn't love, but let's talk about what we do like here. I think what I like the most is quarterback, running back. So Kyler Murray I really like as a quarterback option. At running back, I think Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, and Ezekiel Elliott as a package is just probably the most reliable running back group in the league. I mean, these are guys that will really consistently deliver with a pretty high floor. People are giving Zeke a hard time, but I think that was pretty much a steal in the 4th round. Zeke, can you believe that? In the 4th round, I think it's a steal because Zeke still gets those end zone. He's still in a good offense. He's still going to get the red zone touches. He's going to get touchdowns. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get, probably top 10 in rushing touchdowns this season. And I still think he's a good running back. I think people are being a little bit too hard on him, to be honest. Your wide receiver group I don't really like. I mean, T. Higgins being a wide receiver 1 is probably the weakest wide receiver 1 in the league. I know T. Higgins went off at the end of last season, but remember, he is a wide receiver 2. So I would rather him be a second wide receiver on a team. Gabriel Davis, another second option on his team. Another guy who could get touchdowns. Another guy in a really good offense. It's so interesting to see. We were just talking about a team that went with wide receiver 1s all on bad offenses. And now we're going for the second wide receiver all on good offenses, Jerry Jeudy being next. It's almost like you both designed it that way. Like you're so consistent in that between Caesar Trons and the team I was just chatting about, which I'm already blanking out on. I think it was a chairman. It's curious to see which strategy pays off better. I would rather a balance. I would rather, as I said, a little bit of a mix, and I would also rather start leading off with a top option on a good offense, like almost every other team here has. We go down the list. We have CeeDee Lamb, we have Mike Evans, we have Deebo Samuel, we have Keenan Allen, we have Tyreek Hill, we have Jamar Chase, we have Justin Jefferson, we have Diggs, we have Devontae Adams. This is the only team that I'm seeing that doesn't really have, the first option on a good offense as being the first wide receiver taken off the board, actually. With all that being said, my most common term, I think that running back stability is going to be enough. I think you just need to see one of these wide receivers who are the second options really explode. You need to see Gabriel Davis go the way he was at the end of last season, or T. Higgins go the way he was at the end of last season, and he'll be in pretty good shape. Because I don't really love the tight end wide receiver position, I still gave it a B-, but again, these B- teams really I do see having potential, really making some noise in the league. With that being said, we've now done, I believe it has been 4 teams. So with that, we're going to go with our 5th team. We have 2 Bs to talk about. And the first B we're going to talk about is El Captain. Again, this is a tie, but I'm going El Captain just because he got my least favorite pick in there, being did I do the worst value? Yeah, I did. Oh wow, I can't believe I didn't go this guy worst value. I switched the last minute, that's why I'm forgetting. So for El Captain, you were tied for worst value with the pick of Devin Singletary. A pick that I really don't understand, but I'll get to that after I mention your earlier picks. Because you do have some good earlier picks, and I don't want this to be a negative tone because I love Justin Jefferson. He's my favorite wide receiver in fantasy this season. I love Saquon Barkley. I think he was a little bit underdrafted in this league. I really like James Conner. And I do like Terry McLaurin, but when we talk about Terry McLaurin and Amari Cooper, your 4th and 6th round picks, I think the way they go might be the way this team goes, because while I like your first 3 picks, in a 10-team league, you need everyone to perform. Your 2nd and 3rd wide receivers are a little bit, you overdrafted a little bit, at least Terry McLaurin. That being said, I got Terry McLaurin, so I understand the pick, and he probably wasn't going to be around 12 picks later when you drafted again, or 14 picks later even. But with Terry McLaurin, that offense, again, with that quarterback situation, Carson Wentz, is he going to be able to be the same guy? He's so talented. Can Wentz get it down the field? If he can, McLaurin could be a top 10 receiver easily. Right now, I think you'd be happy even with just top 20. We'll see where Terry McLaurin lands. I think Amari Cooper's a similar situation. Unbelievably talented wide receiver. Can the quarterback play? Matchup, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. I'm noticing that I have a meeting in 5 minutes, so let's move it along by wrapping up El Captain, saying Devin Singletary was the reason I didn't give this team at least a B+. Devin Singletary above Eli Mitchell, I will never understand. I do not think he's a very good running back. I know it's a good offense, but I think Cook's going to get involved. I just can't get behind the Singletary pick. The reason I didn't dock it so much as the worst pick, because listen, he's still a starting running back on a good offense. This is still a later pick. I can't be too hard on you. But I do think the opportunity with Eli Mitchell would have made this one of the stronger teams in the leagues. You did go early on kicker defense also, we should mention. But it's fine. I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, but who would have you gone? It's not like there's incredible players. I guess you went Justin Tucker. I would have rather see you go, who's the guy? Oh, wait, no. It was Buffalo Bills defense. Between that, there was the Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, Nyheim Hines, even Madison to be able to get the Dalvin Cook guy in a little bit of a bind. I would have rather see that. But B for El Captain. Now we're at the top 5, and for number 5, we're going to be talking about Paco Libre. Paco Libre. Wow, I always forget how hard it is to talk for such a long amount of time. Paco Libre. Really strong start to the draft. McCaffrey, Kelsey, Debo. Really steady, good options. Kelsey getting older, but still, these are reliable guys. McCaffrey has injury concerns, but with running backs, I'm not going to really dock you for injury. Everyone gets injured. I do think those are really high ceiling guys that you got in Kelsey, McCaffrey, Debo. I'd say for the position, those are 3 of the highest ceilings guys that you could even get. But there was a lot of risk with this team. Again, McCaffrey does have the injury, so at least you mention it. But if you had a steady RB2, I would be like, fine, everyone gets injured. Cam Akers, you're getting an injured running back coming into camp. 2 injured guys I'm a little hesitant on, but I do like both. So the question is, together, is it fine? You back that up with Gibson, another massive risk. I mean, we'll see. Maybe the backup running back, unfortunately, getting shot does make Gibson a bigger role than what he was supposed to be, but we'll see. Jalen Waddle also, in that Miami offense, I am lower on Waddle than the rest of the league. I mean, he'll have good weeks. He's talented, but Tyreek's going to be the main guy, and that's not going to be an amazing, amazing passing offense. Mono St. Brown I like a lot more as a steady option, a guy who's going to get a lot of targets. So for Paco Libre, I think the final highlight I want to make is that there were some good depth charts. There was Christian Kirk, I think, is a fantastic late-round pick. I think Nyheim Hines is another good late-round pick as far as these guys could deliver volume and points on weeks where you might have buys or whatever it might be. These guys are going to be able to deliver. They're just simply going to be involved in their offenses more than I think they're getting credit for right now. So I think that was a good pick, and that's why Paco Libre gets our final B. Now we're going to some B+. We got 2 B+ and then an A-, and I think that's it. Let's just make sure that we're going to cover everyone. 3, 6, 9. I only did 9 teams. I literally lost the 10th team. I'm going to need to find out where my 10th team is. I probably put it on this notepad. Okay, next up is going to be Pain Train. When you're Pain Train, you got to bring the pain, and you brought the pain for the other teams. Starting Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, really, really, really strong start. I really like the 2 RB to start off strategy, and that's what you went with, and I think that's why I like seeing your team so much here. That enables you to do a lot more later on. At RB, you ran it out with Josh Jacobs round 5, the perfect guy to complement, to give you some depth there. And then you could go riskier, high upside guys like Cook and Herbert, who, you know, if they get the starting job, are fantastic options. RB was an absolute masterpiece. I'm a little bit nervous about Derrick Henry versus other people. I think for me, I would have probably waited a little bit longer for Derrick Henry. He probably wouldn't last, but that's where I would value him, but that ceiling's too tempting, and the way you rounded out that running back group made it really work, so I think you should have no regrets on that one. I think that your running back wide receiver depth is really strong as far as high ceilings. You got Michael Thomas after you got reliable guys like Keenan Allen and A.J. Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. If he ends up being the main guy in Kansas City, and that's a really, really strong option. And Brandon Ayuk, the word is that the connection with him and Lance is really strong. So I honestly, overall, just really like this team. I don't think there were many reaches. Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow is one of my lesser favorite quarterbacks in a 10-team league. Zach Ertz probably one of the weaker, or if not weakest, tight ends. That's what left you at a B+, not an A-. But I think the team could make a lot of noise. I really like Paint Train. Next up is Captain Corrupt. Captain Corrupt coming at a B+, another really well-balanced team. I mean, you go RB wide receiver heavy early on. That's the strategy that I think works the best in this Tampa league because of all the premium options early on. Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, I'm definitely on board for. Javonte, another guy I'm a little bit less high on than everyone else, but I think he's just he's gonna be reliable. I just don't think he's gonna really have the ceiling of a top 5 guy, which, you know, when you take a top 10, top 15 running back, you want at least that ceiling. I don't see it just because of Melvin being there, but Javonte is a really talented running back, and to pair him up with Jonathan Taylor is pretty scary. At wide receiver, you did go with some guys that are just very talented wide receivers, and of course there's question marks, I guess, with almost anyone, but I think you limited that pretty effectively. Evans being a tight end target, obviously very, very solid. Hollywood Brown now the main option those first 6 weeks. I think it's impossible for him not to be good in that offense. Adam Thielen, a touchdown guy. Courtland Sutton's the only question mark, but with those reliable options, I actually really like the approach here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another steady option. You really just balance it really well with risk and safety, and then position-wise, because Goddard's still a really good tight end steal later on, and Brady obviously very reliable as well. Final piece here is Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker. That turn at rounds 12 and 13, I think will really pay off. At least one of them I see being very sneaky good, more like a 6th-round value type of person. So Captain Corrupt with a B+. The last team that I'm going to talk about before I remember if I forgot anyone is Glory Hole. Glory Hole, our favorite draft being an A-. Glory Hole did that RB first strategy. Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, a masterpiece. Kamara obviously a little bit of risk with the suspension, but then later on you get J.K. Dobbins and Eli Mitchell, and then Rashad Penny, Chase Edmonds. Let's give you that too. 2 of those 4 guys are going to perform. I actually think a couple of them are going to be studs, mainly being Eli Mitchell and then potentially J.K. Dobbins. Your RB group is my favorite RB group in the league, and you did not sacrifice wide receiver to do that either. Tyreek Hill, fantastic wide receiver option. DJ Moore, I think, might be better than Tyreek Hill this season. And then DK Metcalf might be just as good as both of them, because I don't think people are realizing that him and Geno will be able to connect, and DK Metcalf really is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL still. So when you leave it there, you're like, okay, well, quarterback tight end must be a mess. Maybe tight end Cole Kmet, but even Cole Kmet I think is going to be a target monster, maybe top 5 in targets for the tight end position with Justin Herbert, who's a fantastic quarterback option. I don't see a weak spot on this team. I think this team, because of the running back strength, is going to end up top of the league right now is my early prediction. We went with Jared is now the team that I'm realizing is the last team that I didn't give a ranking to, at least here, because I can't find them on my notepad, but I did review them. So Team Glory Hole is first place. He's still first place. We went with Jared as the team that we ranked at a B+, and I was nervous ranking a B+, because when you go wide receiver first, the first 2 rounds, gigantic risk. Where are you leaving yourself running back wise? But he got Kupp and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase falling that long, you got to take him. I doubt he even planned to take wide receiver early, but both times in the first 2 picks. But if you get Jamar Chase in the 2nd round right now, it's a no-brainer. You have the best wide receiver group just because of those 2 guys. I love the Renfro depth pick. I love the Robert Woods depth pick. Even Rashad Bateman, I actually kind of like depth pick. Wide receiver group is totally set. Tight end and quarterback, Lamar Jackson, Darren Waller, obviously I have no problem with it. At the running back position is probably your weakest position, and I can't really even complain about it because Leonard Fournette right now, I still seeming to deliver as a potential RB1 season. David Montgomery, 20 of 22 touches, I think it was this most recent with the first team in this most recent game. He's still their RB1. He's their guy, and he's talented. I don't like Breece Hall that much, but you have Fournette, Montgomery. Breece Hall's a flyer. I'll take it because you got other flyers too. You went with Michael Carter, a great way to complement Breece Hall. You'll end up getting the main guy in that offense, so I respect that. And Darrell Henderson, another really good pick because Cam Akers is injured right now. He might start the season with value. If we went with Jared manages as a team effectively, I could see a trade potentially to the Cam Akers guy once Cam Akers is healthy and maybe performing better. Because Darrell Henderson will carry value. I really, again, there's another team I don't see many weaknesses with because there's an RB minor weakness. That's why we went B+ with this team, not A-. But I really love this wide receiver group. That ceiling is in the sky. So with that being said, that was a B+ team. That tied for third. So I'm gonna go Team Glory Hole as my prediction to win it all. Let's see how it pans out. I can't wait for a good season. Have a good one, everyone.